Hey guys, so today's video is one of the most requested videos that I've ever seen. This training is there's been already hundreds of people asking me to make this training because it's a much more common problem than you think. Oftentimes there's stigma around, let's say, emotional eating or stress eating or binge eating, where you lose control around food, right? And it's not really talked about that much. Yet it's such a real experience, and I've experienced it myself in specific periods of my life. Today we're going to go into actually 20 factors that drive this behavior, this kind of desperation, this kind of hijack, emotional hijack, where you lose conscious control. Your goal is weight loss. Your goal is to look different, but your behaviors are completely out of alignment with what you're saying and what you, let's say, believe in your cortex. So to start with, we're going to create a big separation. There is obviously an interaction between your rational and emotional brain, but this is a Nobel Prize-winning discovery that really paints human behavior into a very different category than we often think. There's a lot of people that will have you believe that you just have to do this one habit. You just have to wake up at this specific time. You just have to, if you only meditate, if you journal, this will completely change your life. However, there's a more nuanced view at this, and it is that if these new habits and behaviors transform these systems that I'm going to talk to you about today, these 20 different factors, there's much more, but these will cover majority of, even one of them, transforming one of these systems is going to lead to major changes in your life. So again, emotional eating, stress eating, and even binge eating to some degree. So why does this matter, right? And this is a critical question to ask yourself, because we need very good reasons. We need to have very strong reasons as to why we need to change, because those reasons then can have some kind of access to changing your emotional brain, how you feel towards behavior, because that's all that matters. That's what, if you look at words, they can be absolutely driven and coming from your cortex. However, your actions and a lot of your beliefs, what you actually believe, what you believe is what you do, we could say. We could have that definition, because a belief, we could say, is it's in your emotional brain. It's controlling your instincts. So what drives your actions is your reward system. And your reward system, of course, interacts with your biology, as we'll see. So we have these two kind of separate systems that are creating our actions. So this is very important to know. And this is going to, emotional eating is going to influence every single area of your life. It's going to influence obviously your health, but it's also going to influence your relationships. And I want to encourage you to find the consequences beyond the long-term potential downsides. And the reason for that is that almost no one changes their behavior based on long-term dangers, because we humans are designed to believe that the future is really, really, really dangerous, and it's going to go really bad unless we put effort in now. This is why we're motivated. And as soon as you put the danger in the future, meaning, I'm so worried, one day, maybe, or maybe not, I'm going to have blood pressure problems, I'm going to have a heart attack, I'm going to die early, 6 years early, 7 days early. And, individually, there might be some people that are motivated by that, but most people aren't. And so if you already are aware of this information and you haven't changed your behavior, then that means that your reward system doesn't care, because it thinks, well, there's already so many dangers in the future that this little thing doesn't matter. Aren't we all going to die, right? So it's just not going to be very intense. However, if we connect it back to things that matter to you, for your emotional eating habit to influence areas of your life that you really care about, where your status is on the line, which is one of the most powerful ways I've seen rapid transformations in behavior, is putting that into your serotonergic system, which is one of the systems we're going to talk about. But I really want you to reflect, how is emotional eating influencing your mental health, your cognitive function, your brain health, your performance at work, your relationships, your ability to not be irritable and be patient with your partner, with your children, with your friends, how it's influencing your energy levels, your discipline, right? I want you to look at the consequences right now. If you don't, you're going to have massive problems executing. So this is the first way in which we give you some energy. We produce and engage your dopaminergic system and your reward system towards a different vision. This is the beginning. So another way to kind of think about it is, if you're an emotional eater, you're more than likely not going to get full on, healthy foods or light foods. You're going to go for the massive amounts of dense calories. And that's really going to impact your brain health. And with low brain health, there's going to be a high level of confusion. You're not going to have goals, because if you're sick, you're going to lose your drive. It's going to plummet your neurotransmitters, and you're going to stop all goal-oriented behavior. So even if you struggle with formulating clarity, formulating a vision for the future, understand that this very likely, it's a health problem. Very likely. And especially if you're performing some kind of behaviors or you're putting some kind of psychological input, yet you're not really getting the drive that you want, or the changes that you want. That means that more than likely it's your biology. And so now that we've mapped on the consequences right now in the very present, how it's influencing you right now we can look at the actual factors and how we can modulate them. So another reason for making this change is actually that unless you are, so to say, unless we get you to get closer to your ideal that you set out for yourself, and you start to move towards your goals, the amount of positive emotion is going to be very limited. And not only is your life going to be really worse, and your health and your well-being and your mental health is going to be really, really horrible with low positive emotion, but you're also going to influence the people around you. And you're going to spread those emotions as well. So it's just very important to get yourself strong before you even try to influence other people. If you're not strong yourself, and you're not able to put responsibility on yourself in influencing other people, meaning I have to get better, my communication has to get better, I need to know more, I need to understand someone better, then it's just going to be very difficult to interact and influence other human beings, and that's going to impact the quality of your life. So looking at emotional eating, well, the reason this is so requested is because we are all our most emotional selves when it comes to eating. There's few places in our day-to-day life that we do every day that are as disconnected from our cortex as eating. Not eating is going to hijack your emotions very quickly. Of course, we have proof of not being hijacked by your emotions when hungry, in multiple horrific situations throughout history. However, that's where the likelihood of you being hijacked by your emotions and beginning to think very short term, and this is where the likelihood is going up really high. So understand that we are all our most emotional selves. So the key to new food eating habits is to change the emotional brain primarily. And we can do that through top-down techniques, and we want to do that because that ensures congruency. However, understand that thinking that you believe something and thinking that you know something, yet doing the opposite, that's the rule, not the exception. Almost everyone does that. It's the same in business performance. It's the same with eating habits. So it's very important that you have a strategy for updating your emotional brain, and that you understand how to do that and what's at stake here. So I'm giving you a lot of background because this is critically important, and this is some high level stuff. So my throat is feeling it, but I'm gonna push through it. So by the way, if you would like the notes of this, I'm going to talk about a lot of information, but if you would like a PDF, then comment notes below, and I'll send you a copy of the notes that I have here in front of me that help me stay on track and help me provide you with the best training possible. So comment hashtag notes or just notes if you would like this. Now, so the very important part here is that basically strategies that do not have this foundational truth that we are our emotional brains and our reward systems around food, and there is a limited input from our cortex, even for me. Any strategy that doesn't take that into account is going to fail, because it's not going to create permanent changes, because we are mostly mindless around food, and it's going to be not mindless is not the right word. However, it's very important to understand that your emotional brain, your reward system is going to drive food, your eating habits for the most part. You can't regulate your appetite top down. You can't tell yourself that I'm full when you're not. You can't, override hormones. You can't override ghrelin or leptin, which are, hunger and satiety hormones. So this is critical to understand, that you're having to fight biology, and if you fight biology, you're going to lose every time. So this is why your strategy needs to be very, very good to ensure that your biology is optimal. This is why a fitness, typical fitness nutrition that doesn't take into account micronutrients and hormones, but it's just looking at calories, this is going to fail in the long term, because you're not going to regulate your hunger through through just top down. No, I'm not going to eat forever. You're not going to do that forever. So that means that your baseline is going to be a weight or a way of looking that is just not, it's not something you enjoy. So this is important, that we're diving into understanding the problem here. And to the extent that we understand the problem is going to be in exact proportion to how well of a solution are we able to create here. Because I'm sure you've struggled with emotional eating for a long time, and you know people that have struggled with this their entire lives. This is not a simple problem, because human beings are complex, and behavioral change is really difficult, and it's extremely unsuccessful in clinical trials. So understand that it requires multiple disciplines and understanding, a deeper understanding, not just surface level, just do it understanding. Because the just do it has, 17 different contributors, why someone is able to just do it and why someone else isn't, or why someone wasn't able to just do it at a certain point in their life, but now they are, right? This happens all the time, but this is not random, and you're going to find this information life-changing. So definitely let me know how you're liking this so far. A lot of more, I'm easing you into this. So this is important, because let's say if we think that your results of overcoming emotional eating only come down to two factors. Well, and let's say these two factors, each of them contributes to 5% of the results. Well, then we have an answer, we have an equation for 10% of the results. Well, 10% is going to feel like nothing. So if our strategy is not comprehensive, we're going to be very, very disappointed, and we're going to say it doesn't work. It just is like that. I'm going to be stuck with this forever. Why try, since I put all that effort in and it didn't work out? And this is very important, that you don't just go out and hammer away, because the psychological equation for motivation is actually how much do you believe, how much does your emotional brain believe that putting effort in, using willpower, producing adrenaline to overcome obstacles, how much does that lead to rewards? If it doesn't lead to rewards, if you don't hit your goals, you're more than likely going to get discouraged. The baseline, the default mode for human beings is to get discouraged and quit. So if you're not going to do that, then you need to know what tends to happen in individuals that do not do that, and what tends to happen in situations where they're able to hit it for the first time. Well, their belief gets so strong, and they're able to sustain it for very long periods of time. So every time you try and fail, that can have a big, big downside. That can have a massive effect. It can give you a minor PTSD where you'll never get your hopes up again, and you'll say, all diets do not work, and, nothing works, and health is genetic. You're going to have increasingly higher proclivity for believing that. So, but the upside is, if we understand, the factors that create 95% of the results, then we got it. Then we can replicate it. Then we know exactly what goes wrong. It's not, sometimes I'll ask a question like, what's the biggest challenge in terms of your health, right? And I'll get some answers that are positive on the outside, but are actually can lead to some problems. And someone will say, it's me. And that's very good. I love personal responsibility. It can be very healthy. However, if you point at yourself being wrong, that's not actionable. You have to point, what about yourself? Is it a specific behavior? Is it a specific belief? And unless you know, you're not going to be able to fix it. So it's critical to understand why something didn't go right, right? And this is why I'm able to produce such amazing results, is because we never allow ourselves to not know why something happened. We always know. We always figure it out. Because it's just, otherwise, if we think something is random, it just means that our model of the world is not comprehensive enough. Our model of the problem is not comprehensive enough. So if you're working with a coach and they say, you didn't execute, well, that's very easy for a coach to say, right? But for me, making sure that to help you execute and to help you understand what drives action and behavior is a huge part of what I do. And this is as relevant for emotional eating as it is for performance. So let's dive deeper into these 20 factors, right? This video is going to be longer, but let me know if you appreciate this, because I really want to provide you with massive help and massive value here. So if you're getting value, comment hashtag value or just value, and just let me know that my effort is appreciated. I really would appreciate that, and it will be fun to hear. So now, since we understand 95% of what creates the results, we're able to create massive shifts really fast. Now, what's the first factor, right? So number one, it's going to be the dopaminergic system. And I have a separate training on this. And if you would like to learn about that, comment dopamine, and I'll direct you to that as well. But the dopaminergic system drives all of our behaviors. If you destroy the dopamine neurons in a mouse's brains, and if you put a food bowl right in front of it, it will eat. However, if you put it just here, it will starve to death, because dopamine controls your willingness to expand effort to pursue goals. So how good does it feel, and how excited do you feel about expanding effort, right? How much are you focused on let's say, recording a video? Well, in recording a video, most people are their emotional brain is going to get hijacked and being obsessed with social rejection. And, oh my God, people are going to see me. Whereas for me, I'm getting excited. I'm going to be able to help all these people, and, I'm going to be able to provide massive clarity, and I kind of am continuing on the path that I am so excited about, which is providing world-class help, and multidisciplinary world-class help, and I am aiming to be the best in the world at this. And so this is, my status is involved in this. I really care about this, and so I focus on the upside. My dopaminergic system is focused on the upside. Well, similar thing happens with with your goals of weight loss or looking a certain way. And your dopaminergic system is going to influence multiple things that I'm going to mention down below as well, but it's going to influence how in need are you of a fix. How high or low is your positive emotion? Are you excited? Are you motivated? Are you willing to expand energy? Are you tired? How high is your effort perception? Meaning, do you think that the effort required is just, rationally understand that it would be worth, the goals will be worth it, but emotionally you just don't feel like it. So it's also going to control just overall how vulnerable you are to things that produce dopamine. If you have high amounts of dopamine, that actually protects you from drug addiction. It protects you from getting addicted to social media. It protects you from getting addicted to food, because emotional eating is absolutely an addiction for some, and it's a spectrum, right? So for some people, it's affecting them. It's not as controlling, but for some people, it has a massive influence on their lives, and so it just gives you resistance towards things that control your behavior, because dopamine ultimately controls our actions. And this is why, addiction can be so deadly, is because it hijacks your value system. You suddenly begin to place everything, nothing can compete to the drug. And if your baseline levels of dopamine are so low that you don't even feel your goals, you don't feel the excitement, you don't feel these emotions, well, then when something comes around, and let's say it's alcohol, let's say it's a different drug, let's say it's nicotine, and something gets your levels to here, well, you've never felt better. And this is why people relapse. And so if your new life, after making the change, after removing the binge eating, the emotional eating, and if you're never able to reach that baseline, if you feel like crap either way, then you're going to be like, why am I even doing this? Why am I depriving myself of pleasure? Another aspect, and I'm going deeper into this, the dopaminergic system here, is that it controls, different dopamine receptors control the types of rewards that you pursue. So D1 receptors are going to control a lot of the pleasure and sensation and much more here and now, whereas D2, D3, so D1 are more reinforcing, you could say, whereas D2 and D3, you can actually see D2 and D3 receptors are higher in people of higher status in societies, because this actually has to do with the serotonergic system as well. So people with higher socioeconomic status, which this is not fixed. There's plenty of people that currently are here, but they have massive, drive for long-term goals, and this is not genetic. The D2 and D3 receptors produce motivation for long-term goals, basically discipline, basically things that take a long time, a vision, more abstract goals. So you become much more, there's much more forethought, there's much more, you need reasons for doing things, and the reasons are driving you, correct? So as you can see, this will really assist getting your dopaminergic system healthy, meaning you're sensitive to dopamine, you have the right amounts of receptors and they're accessible to you in specific brain parts. So and which inflammation is going to plummet them, and the amount of dopamine that is produced and stays is there. There's high levels of availability, and there's enough of dopamine in your brain. And then there are several micro factors, but these are the main three. And so I talk about them more in depth in my dopamine video. But so the dopaminergic system is going to be relevant. So is the serotonin system. The serotonin system is going to lead to, for example, last thing about dopamine is that it's going to help you go through discomfort. You're not going to be addicted to comfort, which, with emotional eating, that's one of the main drivers of that behavior. Is it just feels much better than anything else, and it provides you massive comfort. And that also is related to your, generally people that have the struggle with emotional eating have kind of two forms of, like, they have their healthy mode and they have their typical mode. And their healthy mode is like a salad and a carrot and nothing that would influence your hormones in the right direction. So when they're eating, they think they're eating healthy, and they're eating a bunch of beans and vegetables, and they never get full. And so they're constantly hungry in this healthy state. So their brain remembers that, when I eat healthy, I feel awful, and I feel hungry, and I'm starved, and I'm stressed. Well, I'm going to go here. At least, even though I'm getting some poison here, at least I'm getting things I need. So there's a ton of misconceptions as to what produces optimal health, and the government guidelines do not really help. Most nutritionists are really poorly educated in this area. So it's very, very, very frustrating, and I understand that. But you definitely want to, if you don't feel incredible, you're doing something wrong. Just have that as the ultimate judge. Blood tests are a very amazing tool as well. And most of the people that are promoting these, they don't really have any numbers to back it up. Whereas what I tend to recommend, although this is the changes based on the individual, is going to lead to optimal hormones. It's going to improve to massive improvements in well-being. So that's what you really want to focus on, and brain health. Whereas in most communities, brain health doesn't even exist. It's not even a term that they use or understand the constituents of. Coming back to the serotonergic system. Now, so if the higher your baseline, the higher your positive emotions, the less you're gonna eat, and you're gonna notice that if you have some kind of exciting project going on, there's something new in your life, there's even a vacation, there's you see some friends, you're gonna forget to eat. You have some exciting things you're working on, you're playing music, you're in this state of flow, you're not really scatter-minded, you're going to eat less, because as soon as you have low positive emotion, food works as a buffer for stress. So losing weight is actually more of a negotiation with stress, on top of obviously many other things nutritionally, but it is a negotiation with stress. And serotonin controls how stress reactive you are. Because if you are living a first world life, there's not really any real dangers. The only real danger is the pathologies of your brain, the pathologies of your stress response. I'm going to go into here, which, amygdala network is number 6, but I'm going to bring it up right here. So the amygdala controls threat detection and your stress response. And for a lot of people that are walking day to day, especially people who are going to struggle with anxiety and also emotional eating or addictions of any kind, their specific brain parts responsible for driving addictive behavior, meaning, oh, there's so many rewards. Oh, cortex, adjust your thinking, take action. Instead of, oh, what is important? Oh, this is important. Reward system, act, make me take action and want this. Right? That's a completely opposite way of making decisions. Well, addiction makes you this, and emotional eating is an addiction, a form of it. And stress plays a major role. One of the main drivers of relapses is going to be stressful events. So it's absolutely critical to understand stress very well, and to, which I of course have very in-depth trainings on this for my clients. And going into the serotonergic system, depending on your amounts of serotonin, which are mostly control your self-image and your status, how well are you doing in life? Should you focus on rewards or should you focus on the dangers and avoiding risks, right? In today's society, it is horrible to be in the avoiding risks situation because our society doesn't reward that at all. And being stressed is very maladaptive in today's society because it's such a technically safe society. So emotional regulation it begins to play a major role here. And serotonin is not only going to govern how reactive you are to stress, meaning, something doesn't go right. There is some chaos. Do you get stressed? Do you freak out? Do you get hijacked? Do you get mean? Do you get defensive? Those are going to impact your life tremendously. And another thing that serotonin does is that it actually increases your capacity to resist immediate gratification. Well, emotional eating is immediate gratifications, as immediate gratification as it goes, right? And so it's very intense emotions. And serotonin, the higher your serotonin, the more you're going to be able to control that. The more you're going to be able to regulate your appetite top down. Although that's not extremely possible in the long term. And you don't really want to do that because hormonally you're going to be a wreck. Even though you might be lean or small, and your brain might be a wreck. So it's not it's not all about body composition. However, body composition does play a role. So looking beyond, and another thing that happens with serotonin is the higher your serotonin, the more your body stops making you ready for any kind of danger and being very fidgety and easy to fire off, like very easy to make you stressed. As soon as your serotonin is raised, now, I don't have to stress, and I don't have to produce catabolic stress hormones. I can produce anabolic protective hormones, and your body begins to actually optimize its own health. So there is a massive, emotions do influence our hormones in that way, and most studies have been done on how that influences us in a day. Even with posture, your posture is going to influence your hormones in 2 minutes. That's not the main. This is amazing, of course, but the main thing is your default mode. How do you spend your time? How are your emotions day to day? Like in my program, we look at the thoughts, the content of those thoughts that are every day, because it all matters. Especially when we're trying to change behavior and we're trying to create new results. It all matters. The thoughts, the quality of them, the emotions, it all matters, right? So serotonin and having a sophisticated way of evaluating status, vital. Otherwise, you're going to fall for very superficial ways of gaining status, and you're going to end up doing something stupid and unstrategic. So looking at next one, now we're on number 3. So hormonal health is going to influence your ability to overcome emotional eating, because like I mentioned before, you're not going to be able to regulate your appetite. If your leptin or ghrelin are off, which control hunger and satiety, you're not going to overcome them. Because in order for you to, you would have to expand willpower all the time and be stressed and produce adrenaline, and that's just not going to work. Because most of the time, and that might work if you're a fitness professional, but if you have other, things that you have to do, you have to be sharp. I have my clients, I have my wife, I have my son, I have my business, right? It's just not going to, I need to be at my best, so I can't be barely even getting through my eating. My eating is very automatic. I don't think about it. I don't even I don't have to control myself around food, really, because my food choices are intelligent, and my food choices are very intuitive at this point. So it's completely, it just gives me willpower. It doesn't really cost me anything, and me and my clients really get full quite often Whereas if your hormonal health is not where it could be, then you're not even going to be able to be full, because first of all, you're probably going to get full on the wrong foods, but second, your metabolism is going to be so slow for your weight that even at 1,000 calories a day, you're not going to lose weight, or it's going to be very marginal and slow. My metabolism is around 4,000 calories a day, and that's very high for my height and body weight, which that allows me, to lose weight very easily. And it's actually quite hard to hit all my calories because my thyroid is healthy, because my hormones are at the top range. So that's really what you want to aim for, is that I'm relying on my biology in that department as well. I'm letting it regulate my body composition in the direction that it performs best at. And you can definitely do that. People, most of my clients lose weight quite fast when we start, and we don't control the portions. We simply educate on what does what, how do we maneuver glycogen stores, and so on. How do we eat for stress? Because it's okay to stress eat. It's okay to do that intelligently. But if you don't have a strategy, if you don't understand what foods lower stress, how to read your own cravings, because most of the time in our world, we've really mistaken what each craving means. We don't really, there's just massive mistakes going on there. So hormonal health is going to be important. So is brain health. It's going to really, another last thing on hormones is that there is absolutely hormonal imbalances that can cause blunted pleasure response and inability to be satisfied. And this is OCD-like, where the pursuit feels so much better than the actual completion of a task. And this imbalance, which can be caused by inflammation, because, for example, when you give clients or patients with OCD NAC, which increases the amount of glutathione in your brain and restores dopamine receptors, for example, there's many of these antioxidant compounds, their symptoms get less. They have less OCD symptoms just because they increase the amount of antioxidants in their brain, and it lowers their inflammation, right? Now, we could absolutely lower inflammation through many other ways, amongst other removing poison that you think isn't harming you or you think is actually good for you. So, already a long training, but I hope you appreciate this. Next one. So, obviously, stress response tendencies. And I'm going to try to go less in depth on these because I can make future videos about these, but I want you to be aware of them. Stress response tendencies, and this is really the amygdala network and communication to other brain parts. So, we can predict how well someone can regulate their stress response, and if someone has an anxiety disorder or PTSD, we can see it on their brain scan. We can see the structural changes. First, we see activity, but then that leads to structural changes in their brains where they actually have less connections between their cortex and their threat detector, amygdala. And so they see it. And one of the things that happens with PTSD is that single experience enlarges your amygdala forever. Not forever, because you can change the size and connections to your amygdala quite easily. But it tends to be for long periods of time, right? A single experience just colors your thinking for the rest of your life. And this is a neuroplasticity problem. This is, a massive pathology of neuroplasticity, which neuroplasticity can be changed and modulated, and we can increase it or decrease it. So there's many levers we have there. So the amygdala network is going to predict how well you're able to regulate your emotional brain and your stress. Are you able to calm yourself down with your thoughts? Are you able to stop rumination? If you're not, that more than likely would show on a brain scan. Looking at stickiness and persistence of behaviors. And this is related to neuroplasticity. If a behavior is very sticky, it's like you're stuck with it. You don't seem to be able to get rid of it. One of the main things that is we know that predicts, for example, cognitive flexibility and ability to change your own behavior in humans and in animals is the amount of growth factors in your brain, which basically says that the higher your neuroplasticity, the higher your capacity, your fundamental capacity for change, which is very logical. So understand that there's many things that you do day to day that will decrease your deeper capacity for change or increase it. And you want to know which ones are what. Now, and this is another, the stickiness part is related to cognitive flexibility. And cognitive flexibility is one of the main skills of people who don't get negative health outcomes from high stress. So this is actually from a neuroscientist that wrote Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. But cognitive flexibility, you could say, is the underlying mechanism that allows you to, for example, then use different NLP techniques and the techniques that Tony Robbins is so well known for. But that's like a toolbox for your cortex. But if you don't have a deeper biological capacity for using these techniques in real life, you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to change how you feel with your thoughts, with your focus, with your words, with your vocabulary, with the meaning you see, with your body language. You're just not going to have enough awareness of what's going on and how everything is. You're just not going to be able to jump between subjects. And there's just many. Cognitive flexibility is so vital. And now, then we have, low neuroplasticity, number 9. 8 was stickiness. Low neuroplasticity is going to be low capacity for change. Low dopamine, high desperation for experiencing heightened emotions. So if you don't get heightened emotions, you're going to be desperate to seek them out. Low serotonin is going to impact you. It's going to make you into a very impulsive person. And it's going to make you care less about abstract rules and high-level values and more long-term stable goals that we admire so much in our society. Poor attention and inability to escape from your negative thoughts. This is going to be, a massive challenge, and this is very real in emotional eating. Is that you just run out of tools because you feel so bad and you want to change how you feel, but it's like you can't get rid of it. Well, that's a brain health problem, which means that if we go biology first and we use the resources you have right now to change your brain health, well, it's going to loop into higher capacity to do this, right? And so this is why it's so incredible to do, it through psychobiology, doing it both ways and finding the right time to do the right thing at the right, in the right situation, in the right way. So next one is going to be high inflammation. Inflammation is going to wreck your cognitive sharpness, your memory, just massive amounts of problems. And not only in the long term, but just like immediately day to day. If I do the wrong things, I'm going to be much less sharp. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to remember the things I need to. I'm just going to operate on a much lower level. And it's the same thing for everyone. So there's just multiple versions of you depending on your health. There's multiple performances available, specifically mental performance. So now, next ones are I'm not gonna go into them too much, but micronutrient deficiencies are going to transform. Micronutrients are the single most important thing for your hormones and for your brain health and for your energy production. So if you have micronutrient deficiencies, even one can have completely wreck your well-being. For example, choline deficiency, which is 95% of people in the U.S. have a choline deficiency. Well, choline is the precursor to acetylcholine, which controls attention and neuroplasticity. Well, if you have a inability to pay attention and a lower capacity for change, how is that going to impact your life? Significantly. Choline is also one of the best predictors of anxiety disorders and insomnia. So it's just not something you want to do, yet 95% of people have that problem. And there's about 30 different micronutrients that are all relevant and that all produce different symptoms. So definitely let me know, and this is why when I ask you about your symptoms, I'm able to connect that with my intuitive knowledge about this in combination with doing further research to really know what's going to help you. Now, next one is even poor gut lining and low stomach acid. So low stomach acid and gut lining kind of interact because the lower your gut lining, the lower you're going to have your stomach acid, because your gut lining just can't take it. So you have low gut lining, well, then you're going to lower your stomach acid, and when you lower your stomach acid, you're going to develop micronutrient deficiency because you can't really absorb many minerals when your stomach acid is low. And this is, currently and this gives you, low stomach acid gives you many symptoms, including being tired from eating protein, so inability to digest protein, also GERD and different acid reflux symptoms, and also it's going to lead to inability to create, it's going to disrupt the melatonin cycle, which means insomnia problems, many problems, on top of digestive problems, and food sensitivities. Now, low quality sleep, one of the biggest reasons, right? I'm not going to go into it too much, but even one sleepless night is going to make you on average consume 25% more calories. And so this is not about necessarily hours, but it's about the quality of those hours. How well are you getting into deep sleep? Are you coming out and waking up refreshed and motivated? And do you feel strong? How's your grip strength? There's how sharp do you feel when you wake up? These are all indicators of your sleep quality, and they matter. And there's many things, PTSD, for example, people who are unable to recover from PTSD that is chronic is 100% comorbid with insomnia or some kind of sleep disruption. And that is because sleep is actually neuroplasticity therapy. It actually deactivates certain too intense emotional experiences, and it tries to adapt them to make you more functional. Well, when you don't do that, you're going to be stuck with very strong emotions towards particular things that are going to disrupt the quality and intelligence of your behaviors and thoughts and your model of the world. That's going to turn into pathological problems, right? Like PTSD. Now, lack of psychologically heuristic thought habits. So this is, a mouthful, but it basically relates. I'm trying to bring an umbrella of psychological, because psychology does matter. Your thoughts matter, just like I mentioned before. And if you don't have a way to evaluate the quality of your thoughts, it's going to be very difficult to improve, right? And this is why understanding the specific systems that control our emotions and how that relates to certain categories of thought, this is why I can bring phenomenal insights to people, because understanding what drives our positive and negative emotion and the dimensions in each department is extremely helpful, because now we can judge the quality of thoughts in relation to your goals. And that just makes massive difference in problem solving. Next one is really the kind of the amount of tools you have for lowering your stress top down. Like, when you're stressed, what can you do to deal with stress that isn't eating? If eating is the only way you can lower your stress, you're going to overeat. So that's number 19. And the final 20 is going to be philosophy and beliefs that keep problems permanent, while the perception is that these problems are permanent, that you believe that, and that keep you away from optimizing and finding solutions and looking for the root cause. So this will be related to your own beliefs about how, is this genetic? Are you just stuck with it? Do I have to be, my family ate like this, I have to eat like this. I've always eaten like this, I'm going to have to eat like this. Well, it's not going to be able to be solved. There's going to be a lot of things that will stop you from problem solving. There's a lot of things you can say or believe or think or accept as truth that will stop the optimization process from happening, which means that you are actually going to be stuck with those problems. So, I'm trying to give you a massive clarity on what you're dealing with. And really the best, and this is unfortunately not all of it, but hopefully this was very, very helpful. Let me know if this was helpful. I would really appreciate your feedback, and comment notes if you want this in writing, so you can review it and ask questions and so on. And just the best way, the single best way I could help is to have a conversation with you individually, because ultimately everyone's life is different. The way your brain was wired right from childhood around eating is going to be different. You're going to have different obstacles than a different person that both struggles with emotional eating, right? So this is very important to understand. How do these systems work individually in you, and how can we create a congruency between the healthy you and for your performance not to go down? Because most of the time, if you could remove a habit without negative consequences, you would have already done it. So there's something really positive. There's some kind of help that you're getting from emotional eating that you haven't been able to replace the benefits of. And this is different for everyone. And so we would be able to formulate an individual plan for you, and that's really the best way and the highest level service I could provide. And something to keep in mind: this is not a sales call. This is establishing a relationship. Really, I take my work very seriously. I take what I do very, very seriously, and my mission is always to leave every single person that I talk to better than they were before they met me. No matter whether we're able to create a plan, for the future, or we're able to work together and I'm able to help them. Even if I'm not, it's very important to me to leave you better than you were off before. And that makes sure that I at least offer you some kind of insight, that I offer you some kind of help. So if you would like to solve this problem permanently and have expert help and have someone, a crazy scientist like myself, fighting for you and rooting for you and supporting you, and not only doing that emotionally, but also with a very strategic plan, then definitely reach out to me. Definitely comment below, notes. Definitely interact with me. Let's have a chat, and we can see if it makes sense for us to speak more in depth. Generally, it is a phenomenal experience, and I actually have several people that just left the call, even without working with me, and they made massive changes, and they just felt so amazing, that I was really able to provide them a boost. So I would love to do that for you. So I'm gonna send a link down below to schedule a call in the comment section, or in the description. And definitely feel free to fill out, share your goals with me, share what you're trying to accomplish, and I can guarantee that we're gonna be able to do it at a much higher level have you had never reached out. There's just too many factors that go into these problems, and emotional eating is not going to be separate from, for example, your performance at work, or your social situation, and how well you're able to maneuver social situations and relationships, how well you're able to be guilt-free in these situations. And it's not going to be separate from your brain health and your hormones. And for this to become a permanent change, you need a comprehensive solution. Otherwise, like we said before, it's just going to be a 10% change that is very temporary, and you're just going to get frustrated, and you're going to believe less and less and less, and your motivation is going to go down and down and down. And we don't want that. So I would, it would be an honor to speak with you and get to know you and your situation better and help you reach your goals. So if you enjoyed this, definitely let me know. If you want the notes and kind of have this in writing, then comment below, comment notes, and I'll be able to get that over to you. I hope this has been very, very, very helpful. And I look forward to speaking with you. So book the call below if you're ready, and we're going to be able to talk more about your goals, the vision you have for the future, and actually ensure that it happens. Make it inevitable, because we know the exact factors and the exact things we need to do to accomplish that. So thank you very much again, and enjoy the rest of your day.